I titled it A Fire Within. And the topic is really zeal for souls. Can you get the PowerPoint up, Joanne? Okay, fire within me. So can you give me the controls, Joanne?
Let's see.
If not, then I'll just say next.
Okay, just say next. Let's see.
Okay.
Which is your computer?
The K for J.
The Kathleen?
Conklin. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Where's my cursor?
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's okay. Just go ahead and move it to the next one.
All right.
Okay, so I know we all love the Sacred Heart as Requiem Christi members. And zeal for souls is really the love that comes from his heart. If God, when he came to earth and became man, he did everything he could to reach as many souls as possible. And then he kind of placed that flame in our hands. So the zeal is really the flame of that fire reaching out to others. And it's that love in Jesus' heart. And it's that love put into action, right? A zeal reaches out to others. Go ahead. So what Jesus said was this: I've come to cast a fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already blazing. And Jesus started this fire through his death and resurrection. He said, I'm about to be baptized, and how I wish it were already accomplished. He wanted to do this for us. And so this fire of his love then was passed on to the apostles at Pentecost, right? And his spirit comes on them as tongues of fire. And then Peter carried that fire into the streets. And others saw the fire that was in them, and they were converted right away. So when they heard this, when they saw this fire, they were pierced to the heart. It was another beautiful image of the heart. And they said to Peter, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do? And that's what it's like to reach souls for Christ, right? They look to you and say, what am I supposed to do? Go ahead, Joanne. And I love this image. I don't know, I hope you can all see it well, but it is Peter on that day, right? And if you look at the pillars behind him, those pillars are the pillars of the temple, right? Things have changed, and there's something new. But if you look at the people in this image, I love it because everybody's there. One's trying to hold up the pillar. No, we don't want anything to change. Everything's got to stay the same. There's a mom. I've noticed a mom who's trying to keep her son he's going toward Peter. He wants to hear everything, and mom's holding him back. There are people very interested, curious, and there's even one that's hiding, right? Because, and I thought this was such a great image of our culture today, that it kind of encompasses all kinds of people. But when Peter went out and he showed the fire, some would accept it, some wouldn't. But that day there were 3,000 souls added. And what happened? He went from teaching them that they belong to Jesus, right? And then sharing Jesus with them. And then what happened was that the people changed. They continuously devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, and breaking of the bread, and to prayer. So a real transformation happened in those people that said yes. Okay, Joanne. So we got to figure out how we're going to picture this today, right? And what does zeal for souls look like? Because for me, I can say that I have zeal for souls. I love, I love the idea of bringing souls to Christ. I love the idea of helping Regnum Christi members go deeper into their love for the charism and the mission of Regnum Christi, because I know they're going to bring even more souls to Christ, and their own soul will become much closer. But the way we can look at it, I figure it would be really helpful if we had, like, just in our minds, like, what would those steps look like? So, I created this. I want you to just think. The first thing we need to do is to help them feel like they belong. And I think Peter did that. If you read the scripture, he talks about, he makes them part of the story in the scripture. And then we have to help them, accompany them, and form them until they believe. Believe what? Well, that they are a child of God, loved by God, and they belong, right? And then behavior change to where when I have confidence that I'm the child of God, my behavior will change and I will do things a little differently. They'll become themselves and fully alive, right? So you see, not only we can't see the interior, but we do know that when I joined Regnum Christi, my behavior changed. When I have brought others to Regnum Christi, or if I brought others into the church, behavior changes. Why? Because there's a transformation that happens in the heart, and it just impels them. Like they have to become part of it. And in Father's book, Father John Bartunek's book, he says the love of Christ impels us. He quotes that scripture. There's nothing else we can do. We become fully alive, and we want to share what we have. But the first step is belonging. And, I think sometimes in the past, I've kind of gotten those confused a few times. You would think about, like, who believes and who is really attracted to the charism, right? Who really believes, who acts like they want to be an apostle or whatever. Belonging is first. If a person doesn't belong or feel as though they belong, then they are not going to grow in their love for the movement or their faith. Okay, Joanne. So I want to introduce you to this lady this is a fictitious name, but it's a true story. And this lady is my hero on Zeal for Souls and what I'm talking about. It's, and I'm calling her Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell. She's a real person. She is a very dedicated Regnum Christi member. She is a graduate of Divine Mercy University, and she was assigned she's a psychiatrist, and one of her first assignments was to a mental ward for the violent. This is going to be kind of a hardcore example, but sometimes when you see something so obvious, it helps, right? So that's why I did this. Go ahead, Joanne. So this ward that she was on was considered the most violent in the entire hospital. Fights broke out every single day. There was the staff were extremely anxious, and they all of them knew when they came to work that there was a chance that they were going to be attacked that day. That's how bad it was. Okay, Joanne. They all were given a device, and in that device, they would hold it in their hands, and anywhere you saw them on the floor, a staff person would be holding this device, and they said it looks sort of like a ballpoint pen, and there's a thing that a switch on top of the device, and they would hold this device down, and then they would have it cocked and ready to go. In other words, picture a ballpoint pen, and you push it down, and when you spring it back up, alarms would go off, and there would be these lights that would go down the hall and take the staff directly to where this pen or this device had gone off, so that staff could save the person who was being attacked. And this was daily life for these people. Okay, so go ahead. So Dr. Blackwell walks in, and she's like, what am I going to do? what am I going to do? She didn't like the way her staff was reacting. And when she first walked in, they said, Dr. Blackwell, you got to get your device and have it ready. And she said, I don't plan on being attacked. I don't plan on any violence. And she said, I really would like to have a meeting with the patients and the staff. Bring them all in together. And the staff was very nervous and really didn't trust her, but they did it. And they all went in, and she told them, do not take your devices out. Leave them in your pockets. I don't want you to have one out. So they were upset about that, went into the staff meeting, and Dr. Blackwell said to the patients, well, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Blackwell, and I'd like you to each introduce yourself. Who are you? And the first one's like, oh, I'm Joe. Okay, Joe, what's your last name? Smith. Okay, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, my name is Dr. Blackwell, and I'm here to help you. And she'd have a little conversation with Mr. Smith. And then she went through the room and systematically talked to each person. Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, Mr. whatever. And she said, from now on, you're going to be addressing me as Dr. Blackwell, and I will address you by your proper name. You're important, and I want to take care of you, and I want you to help me. So then she went on to explain her rules that they needed to follow when they were on her floor. And she told them, I don't want any more fighting, and I need you to help each other stop that so that it doesn't happen. And next Friday, when we're going to have another meeting 1 week from today, and we're going to celebrate no fighting on this floor with ice cream sandwiches for everybody. So what do you think the first thing that happened was? Okay, Joanne, go ahead. Her whole staff quit. They looked at her and said, you're nuts. I am not going to get killed because you've got some pie in the sky idea of how to handle people. No way. And so they quit. She had to get a new staff, brought him in, and one of her rules was no device. Cannot hold it in your hand. That shows a lack of trust. So I wanted to show you her results. Within a very short time, she went from being the most violent to the least violent ward in the hospital. This happened recently. The patients got their ice cream sandwiches, and the staff and the patients learned to respect each other. The existing patients, when a new patient would come on the floor, would educate them about Dr. Blackwell. Hey, you're going to be on this floor, you're going to follow Dr. Blackwell's rules. We like our Friday ice cream, and you're not going to ruin it. Like, it was a part of their psyche now to do whatever, be in partnership with Dr. Blackwell, right? And there is a waiting list now for staff who want to transfer to her floor. So I wanted to just talk about that for a second. If you can go to the next slide if you want to, but why, I want to open it up. Why did she succeed? What did she do that won over and transformed an entire culture in 1 week's time? I need your input on that. Anybody?
You can unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Sue Perez in North Carolina. Good to hear you, Kathleen. So thank you for telling the story. You know, I'm skeptical myself, but I think it's because she had a vision and she convinced the others with her vision, simply.
Okay.
It's Beverly Stone. I think also that recognizing their dignity and acknowledging it to them changed them.
Right, right. And we have one that says she showed them respect.
And I think she took away the rule of fear and she replaced it with trust. And that helped, you know, with her vision, helped with the behavior.
Good.
I think too, she believed in them.
She believed in them. Right. Do you think she helped them feel like they belonged?
Most definitely. They were working together for the, in a sense, the common good, to get along and to bring out the best, be able to negotiate and to talk about, to put things on the table and respect each other.
Right. Anybody else first before I say something? I don't want to stop anybody.
This is Marie. Well, I put that she showed them respect, but she also pointed out that they were important. And I think it is important for people to feel that they're part of the group and that they have a role and a responsibility to the group.
Very good. Yes. Anybody else?
I didn't hear the first part of the story, but if she was a woman of faith, then she put her trust in God, and that is what, gave her the success that she had.
Yes, she was a very dedicated Regnum Christi member, and she was a graduate of Divine Mercy University.
Yeah, so, if she really put her trust in God, then, that's what helped her.
And I know that this is kind of a radical case. It was used at my encounter, and I was like, wow, all of us were so impressed. But I know it's kind of a radical case, but I mean, she did the exact same thing. She helped them believe in something good, right? The good in themselves. And she transformed an entire culture. All the behavior changed. She did the exact same thing. And that was because she saw them, just as you said, as a child of God with dignity. She had such confidence in what she knew to be true, which was every person wants what is good. And if I treat them with respect, things will change. And it did. And her proof is the fact that she was able to do so much. But I felt like this was a radical kind of example, right? And I would say too that she, and I think one of you mentioned it, she really saw Jesus in her patients. She really saw them. Now, we're not asked to walk into a violent ward. I will tell you that I wouldn't be able to do what she did. She obviously is called to that as her mission, right? And we're not. But we have a mission where we're meeting Christ every single day in our Regnum Christi members. Every single day. It's much less dramatic, maybe, but it's that sometimes almost makes it harder to recognize. So I wanted to, Joanne, can you turn the thing? I just wanted to think about this for a second. Because if we really think about Jesus in recognizing Jesus in the Regnum Christi member, Jesus in a perspective member, Jesus in a person that we just meet in our daily life, right? If we could start thinking, where's Jesus here? What's happening with Jesus? It gives us so much confidence to act, right? To help them feel like they belong, to help them understand their own dignity. So Jesus was homeless, right? But if Regnum Christi member might be thinking, I just don't fit in. I don't fit in. So she doesn't feel at home, doesn't feel like she belongs. Jesus was dying, but a Regnum Christi member might think, well, you know what? I'm not good enough. My kids are acting up, and I've got this problem at home, they could even just be worried about their own talents and things like that. Like I had this, when I had to give this talk, first thing I thought of was, I have no idea what I'm doing and how am I going to do this, and what all the doubts come into your mind, and they experience those. He was hungry, these Regnum Christi women are hungry. The people on your teams are hungry, but they might feel overwhelmed, right? And they just are, they're looking for a way to be fed. And what I've noticed so much about what we're going through now, this virus and all the internet things that are going on, the masses, the talks. I mean, my goodness, I've had a year's worth of formation in the last month. I've heard priests all across the country. I've heard consecrated who are giving talks, Regnum Christi members who are giving talks. Melissa is doing a whole series. And it takes 10 minutes to sit down and listen to one of these. And, you know, maybe God's giving us a way, I don't know, forward to help the hungry of Regnum Christi. And we have to be open to all of these things, right? I don't know. It's still trying to figure all that out. But he was in need of a friend at times. Jesus needed friends. And Regnum Christi members, there are plenty of people out there, non-Regnum Christi, who are potential, who say, I just don't know how to start. I need someone to help me start. He was ignored, and there are Regnum Christi members who, when they miss something, think no one cares that I'm not there. He was betrayed. She hurt me. They hurt me. The movement's had its, the scandal and the pain that caused is real. It's real. So we have to recognize that and be willing to meet them where they are. He was betrayed. He had moments of sorrow. And, you know, this can really, for a woman, stifle them, right? If they are living a sorrow in their own home, it's hard to want to leave the house. They want to hone in on their family, and we need to go to them and help them. And he was lonely, and you know, there are some Regnum Christi members who think, I wish someone would notice. And I always try to be really careful, like when I'm trying to do something, to think about, like, all right, who do I know that might be excited about doing something and we haven't asked them yet? Because sometimes we can get in our comfort zone, right, and go to the go-tos, right, the ones that we know that they just get the job done. And it's really about, like, who would really like to give something? And and they're just sitting back saying, I wish someone would notice. And I've had these comments before. So I want to tell you about Patrice, because this is a simple one. She's on my encounter team. And Patrice has been Regnum Christi for many years. She's always struggled with apostolate. She said that she didn't have confidence in herself. She didn't really like talking in public. She took jobs whenever she would help out. She would offer to help out with things, and she helped out a lot, but she would always take things that were kind of behind the scenes because she didn't want anyone to notice she was there. But Regnum Christi, the team leader, her team leader, and the other members of her team spoke so joyfully about apostolate and about somehow touching other souls, that Patrice started, I'm going to use a word she didn't give me, which is sort of like, I don't think jealousy would be the word, but sort of like an anxiousness that she wanted what they had, right? And she kept saying, I'm doing things, but I'm just not, I feel like I'm not really living apostolate like I could. And then one day she was driving past the assisted living, or actually it's a hospice near the church. And she thought, you know what? I can pray with people. I'll do that. So she stopped in and she just asked them, would I be allowed to pray with people here? And they said, sure. And she said, maybe you should give me the names of the Catholics, because the prayers I say are from my Catholic tradition, and maybe they would be most comfortable. So let me start there. So she did. She started there. And she said she would go in and she would just play the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and she would talk to the person who was dying. If they could talk, if they couldn't, she would just speak to them and tell them that God loves them, that he sent her, and that she is here to pray for him, and that that he would have a happy and holy death. And she did this week after week after week. And over time, she was able to connect with families. She taught people how to pray the chaplet. She would leave little things for the family when she would leave. She had little things that she would leave there. She was able many times to get a priest for a Catholic person who didn't know or couldn't speak for themselves to get a priest. And all she would do is say, would you like a priest? And they'd shake their head. She'd get a priest in there. So many got last rites because she walked in the door. And so Patrice said, she feels so happy now that she has found an apostolate that flows from her heart, right? And she's fully living her Regnum Christi life. And when I asked her, I said, well, how do you think Regnum Christi helped you? She mentioned in one way or another those three things. Well, I feel like I belong to this family and that we have a mission, right? She believes in the mission and the charism. And then she said, and I want to give that, what I've received, to others. And so it, in a sense, made her go way outside her comfort zone. And she said the first time she walked into the place, she said, I was scared to talk to the lady at the front desk. I was scared to do it. And now she's living this very full Regnum Christi life. And she says she feels happier than ever and she still, you'll still find her helping out on different things, but she's got her own apostolate where she feels like she's really giving back what she's received. Okay. So Jesus was motivated and sacrificed to complete his mission. And to do that, he wanted to connect with a person. He welcomed each one and helped them know they belong. He was able to love each one as they are and let each one know they're loved. He saw potential in each person and motivated them to be who they were created to be. And if you just think of any of the gospel stories, you see all of this, right? But he also challenged them to love the mission given to them by God. He challenged them. And the calling of the apostles and different parts in the Bible make it really easy to see that. And he accompanied his apostles and he formed them. So when they went out, they were able to live that fire of his love moving forward in the world. Okay. Oh, that's nothing. Thank you. Can you go back one, Joanne? Yeah. Okay. So let's open it up for questions and comments. And I think it would be really good too if you would think about like situations maybe in your teams. You don't have to don't mention names or anything, but just situations where you feel like how do I help them belong? Ask questions to each other, and maybe Joanne and Tina and I can help also, just with how to really like live this in team life and with prospective members. Can you open it up for that? Does anybody have any comments or anything?
I mean, I can just give a story of someone I know who was probably not as engaged as a Regnum Christi member for quite some time, and then got involved within an apostolate that really touched her heart. You can tell it was something she was really moved by, motivated by, and just from being a part of that, she's now attending a counter every single week. So it's interesting to see, how the synergy of one feeds the other, right?
Right. Right. And that's true too. If you think about this, like every person is something about the movement attracts, right? Each person. For some, it might be team life, you know, is super attractive. For others, it might be the apostolate is attractive. Contemplative life is attractive. Having some accountability is attractive. But that's just the beginning. And then once they feel like they belong, then they start to really grow in every area, right? And you might even think of your own story and how that is happened to you. Lucinda, are you trying to talk to us? Because you're muted.
Okay, there I am, right?
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. I was just saying that we have 3 new people on our team, which is always wonderful. That excited new energy. But one in particular just loves the case studies and just to pull them apart, not just to see the virtues, but to pull out a resolution for the next week. And it's amazing how it's very contagious to have that new, excited, wanting to belong, and what can they do and how can they learn more. So we're definitely in a changing mode, and we're using Zoom at this time, just like we are here. And that's given continuity because we're really far apart from each other. Probably an hour and a half from one to the other. So every once in a while. So anyway, it's people are making their sacrifices, and right now in this time frame, the Zoom has really helped everyone be present.
And it's interesting when you are online like this, when you do it routinely, you still feel a relationship happening, right?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's still happening. Do you think that this is going to help them want to be together in person when the time comes? This Zoom and all of the stuff you're doing?
I know. I did think of that because it has made us get together easier online because of the driving 45 minutes to get to one place, and it's still another half an hour away. And by the time we meet, and then to get back so late, but I guess to answer your question, I think that this is building the relationship. So I do think you will want to be in person.
Great. What particular aspect, it seems to me like if I'm a team leader, there's one thing for sure that a team leader does in my mind that helps in this process, really helps, which is the talks heart to heart. Have you guys done that with your team members, and have you seen some of the fruits of that?
Is that question to me?
Anybody? Yeah.
Anybody? Oh, okay. We're just starting really the heart to heart. So probably the next step needs to do, let's do it Zoom, but let's get it going. And
Great.
I'll suggest that to the team leader. That would be very good.
Awesome. What other ways have you guys helped people feel like they belong?
This is Marie. We have a team member that's out of state. So when she happens to maybe once a year come into town to visit various people, we always make it a point to have a get together. The team, gets together for like a brunch or something like that. So it's always just been something that we all look forward to, and has helped her feel like being a part of the group, because we dial her in through video all the time. So it was kind of funny that when we started using Zoom, we were all on video. We felt like the Hollywood Squares, like all there together. It was so fun. But the one thing it did for us too with Zoom is because we only meet every 2 weeks, and because of distance and state of life and things that are going on. And so last night when we met, we said, well, now that we don't have as many obstacles, why don't we just meet every week like we used to? So it's something, the Zoom is something that's kind of brought us together as a group. And it's just kind of nice that even if we have challenges with family, caregiving, distance, all that, it's really helping us. That's helping us stay together. But I think just making people feel special and welcome just by getting together is, I think, one of the most fun things, and just one of the things that seems to connect us.
It sounds to me like one of the things that's happened through this is that everybody kind of feels like there's no reason not to meet anymore, right? Like the Zoom is a possibility for to make this stuff happen. What about the second step, that they really believe in the mission of Regnum Christi and are wanting to share that with others? Have your team members, do they feel that way, or are you working on that, or is there some advice you could give?
It makes me think of one other thing. Part of it is just doing a team apostolate. Was it last fall? I can't remember. My dates are kind of scrambled. But one of the things that we did was kind of joined one of the church groups, Holy Spirit. They were doing a carnival for the refugees, and the Sisters of Charity we went over there to help them. So it was just kind of nice to get together as a group and just do something. It was just a fun thing. We were all, just helping out, serving lunch, cooking hamburgers, things like that. But it was just such a fun thing, and it was an easy thing, even though it was a little bit rainy. And everybody was just so joyful. It was just really a fun thing, but it's those kind of things that we keep talking about because we did it together.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
A great story. And then when all those things that we said that when we compare Jesus' life to those who are hesitant, right, disappear. They disappear when you do something together as a team, or when you have your heart to hearts. Those things disappear and confidence comes in, and then people are able to live their mission that God, had in mind for them, and really what makes them especially happy, right? Especially happy. I'll share one thing too, is that on our team, one of the things I've kind of decided is to, and we started it last week on our encounter team, is I privately kind of made this little commitment in my mind that I'm going to just start helping the team members see what they're already doing that is apostolate and giving them themselves, because sometimes people think it's something way more than what they already have. And Patrice was an example. She was elated when she started telling the story, and all of us were just affirming her in the fact that this is what God's called her to, and that's beautiful. That's how she's living her Regnum Christi life. So that affirmation that, you know, that we're making progress, right, in how we are growing in our Regnum Christi vocation. I think that's so important on our teams to be able to kind of not just one-on-one heart-to-hearts are huge, probably the biggest, but then just to do that in front of the other team members, to appreciate the little things like that is very powerful. Well, does anybody else have any other questions or anything? Joanne, do you think that there's anything missing?
Wow, that's a tough question. What really speaks to me is the freedom that you experience when you find that mission. When you can do what you're called to do. That's all that you feel and think. I mean, there's an elation and a freedom. You're in your lane, as I think Melissa said once. I mean, you're in your lane, and it's smooth sailing to some degree. While it can be hard physically, I've felt it. I know what it is. And he's walking beside you, and he's guiding you, and he's smiling at you. And when he shows you that love, you know it. And it's all included in your mission. It's all included in there in a day's work, you know. And I agree with you, encouraging the members of our teams, encouraging the other Regnum Christi members that we encounter when we're at formation or we're out for coffee, when we finally get to do that, or, you know, things like that, encouraging them when you're online with them. When you see them walking in that brilliance that we know is right where he wants them to be. Since I've been a little girl, that's been a mission of mine, is to make sure people know that, because I saw that people didn't do that. And we've got to catch them. We've got to catch them when they're shining and let them know, because they don't see it. Otherwise they'd be blinded, you know. They don't see it. It goes out from you, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I think that's one of the great encouraging things we can do for people.
And that's zeal for souls. When you have a desire to see other souls become fully who they are, right? To become a part of something beautiful for God. That's the best thing ever, is to live our charism. So we are launching other apostles. And you're doing that every day in your teams. So it's just I really appreciate you. I appreciate all the work that you do for Regnum Christi, for Christ, and it matters. Every phone call matters. So I just want to thank you. If no one else has anything else they want to add, I think we're done. What do you think?
Thank you, Kathleen. I think it's great. I appreciate you very much.
It was
Thank
lovely
you.
seeing you. Thank you so much.
I can't wait till we see each other again.